Hello, Bravo bosses, and welcome to the Bravo Investigator Podcast with me, your host, Dana. Today on the agenda for our reality roundup, we are talking about Teen Mom, Summer House, The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, Vanderpump Rules, and Roni. Let's get into it. Happy Monday, everyone. I hope everyone had a great weekend. It is Victoria Day here in Ontario. I'm not sure if it's a nationwide holiday, but I'm on vacation today, so I'm actually recording this insanely early. It is like 5:50 a.m. I just want to spend the day, bed rotting, watching season 8 of Vanderpump Rules. And I know a lot of people think that's probably like a cruel thing to do to myself, but I love season 8 of Vanderpump Rules. So I normally record this episode Sunday evenings, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to get up super early on Monday, record, and then just have the whole day to myself. But I hope you guys caught all of the other episodes I had over the past week. So last Monday, our last reality roundup, I did with Janelle Evans, who is super hilarious. She's such a funny comedian. She knows like every Bravo lab. She recently had Lexi Wood on her podcast. So we talked about that. And then on Wednesday or Thursday, I did a bonus episode of the Valley After Show covering episodes 4 and 5. And then on Saturday, I gave you 2 bonus episodes. We had mini recaps of the Valley and Summer House. And then I did an entire episode on season 2 of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Not a full recap, but just sort of like my thoughts and feelings. And you know how I like to break down the psychology of human behavior. I like to talk about relationships and not so much about like the line by line recaps and the plots of it all, because let's be honest, a lot of the plots of what goes on in The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is quite trivial. So I like to talk about bigger picture. So I hope you guys got a chance to listen to all of those, especially because today on our reality roundup, we will be talking about some Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. So I wanted to make sure I watched it all. I got you guys all of the information so that when we talk today, there would be some new news for you guys, which of course there is, because of course the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives the Mormon Wives, the MomTok women are out doing their media rounds right now. They've been on a ton of podcasts. So of course there's a lot of news in that vein. But something else I wanted to mention to you guys is the other day I was venting to you guys about how poor I am and how I live paycheck to paycheck and how I'm just really, really worried about money. And a lot of you guys reached out and really appreciated my candor and thanked me for like, talking about something that other people are also going through. And a lot of people were like, this is something I really relate to. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I like to complain just as a general person. And I thought that why don't we start off every episode with a Bravo bitch session? Okay. So I've gotten advice before that you shouldn't start off your podcast with something negative. But I thought, you know what? Because I love to complain, I love to bitch. We all have something to bitch about. Why don't we start off every episode with just like our gripe of the week, our biggest Bravo bitch? And it doesn't mean it has something to do with Bravo. I just like the sound, right? I call you guys my BBs, my Bravo bosses. So let's take this opportunity to bitch about something. Every Monday, every episode, let's have a Bravo bitch sesh. So I'll give you guys mine, and then you guys give me yours either in the DMs at the Bravo Investigator, leave them in the Spotify comments, or leave me a 5-star review on Apple and leave your Bravo bitch in there. I just want to have a bitch sesh with you guys, a Bravo bitch sesh. So here's mine for today, and I hope none of you are eating, but mine is chin hairs. Okay, guys, that is what I am dealing with right now with my skin. It is so fucking annoying. I feel like every I feel like every hair follicle has like 3 hairs, and it takes me forever to get them out. I feel like I'm destroying my skin while I'm trying to do it. If I don't do it, my skin doesn't heal, and I'm just in this like constant flux of like disgusting skin because of chin hairs, because I'm in my 40s. So of course I am dealing with the odd chin hair, but it's like more than the odd hair. Cause like I said, it's like ruining my fucking life because there's like 3 fucking hairs in every follicle. So that is my Bravo bitch sesh for today. Again, please tell me yours. Put them in the Spotify comments. Leave me a 5-star review on Apple with your Bravo bitch sesh. I'm having trouble saying it. Your Bravo bitch sesh, okay? Or DM me at the Bravo Investigator, or even email me brunchandbravo@gmail.com and give me your Bravo bitch sesh. And Something else that some people have mentioned is like, Dana, if you're struggling with money, why don't you get a Patreon? And again, I'm really curious your guys' thoughts on this because I actually did have a Patreon for a while and I was struggling to get people to show an interest. And it really is a lot of extra work to put out extra episodes and basically be screaming out into the void if people aren't interested. So, again, if you guys are interested in a Patreon, I would love to do it. Please let me know. Leave a comment on Spotify and let me know. Leave a 5-star review on Apple and let me know. DM me again at the Bravo Investigator. Send me an email, Brunch and Bravo. If you guys want a Patreon, I want to do that for you. But let me know that you want it, okay? I am so, so happy to set one up. Okay, let's get into our topics for today, and we will start with Teen Mom. And Janelle Evans is just a kind of person that honestly will just never ever change. So we know Janelle Evans from Teen Mom 2, if I'm not mistaken, or is she Teen Mom OG? I believe she's Teen Mom 2, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, she's been around from the jump, and I've told her story before, but her basic story was that she got pregnant as a teenager. She was very immature at the time. She was doing drugs, hanging out with all these guys, and her mom convinced her to relinquish her son to him in terms of custody. And she had custody of him for many, many, many years. And this ended up having a big strife in her relationship with her mom, Barbara, because at the end of the day, all Janelle wanted was her son back. But Janelle is also the kind of person who is pretty chaotic. She ended up dating and getting engaged to several different guys, having kids with several different guys. And each of those guys, she ended up in some sort of domestic violence situation with where the police were called. That being said, Janelle did eventually get her son Jace back, which I was so surprised about, but so excited for her because, at the end of the day, a mother should be with their son. And while Janelle had made all these mistakes when she was young, she has had other children. She has raised those other children. And at the end of the day, Jace is her son. And as shitty as Barbara is, which was her mother, I did feel like there was a part of Barbara that was hanging on to Jace because she had raised him this whole time. And I think she really didn't want to let him go because she had created that bond with him. But again, that's your grandson and you have to let the mother raise him. However, ever since Janelle has had him back, there has been a lot of instances of Jace running away from home, of Janelle calling the cops on him, all of this insane stuff happening. And I'm like, what is going on over at the Evans household? Like, you know, is Janelle being a bad mother? Is Jace running away because he doesn't feel safe? I mean, what's going on here? So then we got word that Jace is now living in Florida with his father, Andrew. And you may recall that Jace has no relationship with his father, Andrew. Basically, we saw him on Teen Mom maybe a couple of times, but not really. Like, basically, Janelle was a single mom from the jump. This guy has had zero relationship with Jace his entire life. He showed an interest maybe once or twice, like literally 10 years into Jace's life, and then just really just ghosts. So Janelle went online and decided she needed to explain things to her followers. So this is what Janelle had to say about what happened to Jace.
Anyone's business, but recently I sent my 15-year-old son to live with his father in Florida. Now, a lot of people are asking, why couldn't you handle him? Why would you do that? He had one incident and then you just ship him off. That is not what happened. My son has been dealing with mental health disorders since he's been 10 years old. He was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 10, and most recently in 2023, he was also diagnosed with major depressive disorder, along with his ADHD and defiant disorder, ODD. Incidents started occurring with my son when he was 10 years old. My whole family knew this. It was a family secret, and we try to keep the privacy of my son. Now, I'm not going to go into detail what those incidences were, but it was pretty bad. A lot of people are like, he's been running away from your home as soon as he got there. That's not the case either. He's been doing this since he's been 10. I got custody because my mother couldn't handle it anymore because she was in a bad, dangerous situation herself. So things were getting so bad back in 2023. Once I got custody, CPS got involved. Once CPS got involved, they thought things were crazy in the household, just like everyone else thinks. But really, what came down to it, 3 months later, after my son was with CPS, they sent him to his aunt's house by marriage, which is David's sister. And he acted out there. At this point, he acted out at every single household he went to. So CPS threw their hands up, dropped the case, and said, let's just give him to his mother, let her handle it. So once again, I got him back. Once my separation started, I wanted to get away from all the negativity, the fear, the pain, the anxiety, the chaos that has been caused by this whole time. So I was like, let's get these kids a fresh start. We're going to Vegas. And things will be good for about 3 to 4 weeks. And then another incident. And it's just like with defiant disorder, it's very hard to deal with. Kids act out on purpose because they want attention. They have no remorse. They have no empathy for what they did. And if you look it up on TikTok, ODD, you can find
If you look it up on TikTok.
Since moving to Vegas, I've had my best friend, Tori. She saw his behavior. I've had my ex, August. He saw his behavior. Everybody saw his behavior behind closed doors. It's just we never wanted to put it in front of the media and explain it because it was Jace's privacy. Now we get to the point where it's happened too many times, multiple incidences for years and years and years, and something had to be done. So yeah, I called his dad. I said, hey, I need help. I was in a panic attack. I was crying my eyes out. And I was like, for once, I need your help. And I need you to help take over this situation because all of us have put forth effort into as much as we can give. We've tried everything we could. I've tried, getting placement in boys' homes, but they are just too expensive. Insurance won't cover it. So right now he needs to be in a situation where both households are safe and separating the chaos from the situation right now to protect my 2 younger kids is very important. And also to protect himself. I feel like when you're co-parenting, if both sides of the family can come together to help solve these issues before they turn into adult and like really get themselves in trouble, it's just really important. So I put all the drama aside and said, let's just do this. Jace is now staying with his father, but also his grandmother on his other side, who he has not seen since he's been a baby. So really, you guys are looking at it as a negative situation, but everyone behind closed doors is looking at it as a positive thing for him. So you guys can say all you want. You can say, I'm not taking care of my kids. Being a mother is doing the best interest for your child.
Okay, so many thoughts here. Okay. She worked so hard for years to get him back. So if he's been like this since he was 10, then why have you been working so hard to get him back if he has been so difficult to deal with? Also, I don't believe that Barbara was willing to give up custody of him because she wasn't. Like, if he's been doing this since he was 10 years old, then why did we see Barbara like past that period of time when Jace was well into his teens, not wanting to give him up? So I don't really buy that. Also, yes, you do have to do what's in the best interest of your child. And you really think it's shipping him around to all of these different people? Also, okay, I'll admit I don't know anything about ODD or what defiant disorder. I'm not going to look it up on TikTok. I will look it up in like a real legitimate medical source. TikTok. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But I cannot imagine that the best thing for Jace is to be around someone he's never been around. He has no relationship with his father, no relationship with his grandmother. And how can Janelle say that that's what's in his best interest if she doesn't even know what kind of parent Andrew and his mother are? They've never been in his life. In fact, given the fact that they've never been in his life, how could that possibly be in his best interest? They don't know what his needs are. They obviously haven't cared about his needs because they haven't been in his life this entire time. And she also doesn't really seem upset in this video. If you watch it on her Instagram, she's talking about this like it's a punishment that he deserves. And again, you fought for so many years. You also made the decision to have this child, right? So it's sort of like the concept of like rehoming a pet. You can't rehome your child. If your child has this disorder, then this is your situation to deal with for the rest of your life. And again, you fought for so many years to get custody of him after he was 10 years old, before he was 10 years old as well, but after he was 10 years old. So you've known for a long time, whether or not you wanted to maintain his privacy, that he's had all of these issues, and you chose to regain custody of him instead. I don't think CPS threw their hands up and said, we don't know what to do with this kid. Also, this concept of him acting out at different houses, what is this acting out? And if he's actually able to handle it in Florida with Andrew and the grandmother, then how bad is it? Like, listen, I don't want to trivialize whatever this kid is going through. If this is a real disorder, and I'm sure that it is, I don't want to make it seem like it's less than it is and that it should be easy for Janelle and her family to be able to handle. But I feel like the concept of shipping your child off to someone that he has no relationship with, and for Janelle to even allow that when she doesn't know what kind of parent he would even be, I find that to be such horrific parenting. But what else can we expect of Janelle? It's just so insane how she just hasn't changed from the person that she was when she was 16. At the beginning of this conversation, I was like, we have to give people grace. They grow up. When they're 16, they're children. They don't know what they're doing and they make mistakes. But look at her now in her 30s making the same mistakes, right? And I just think it's disgusting, and I feel really bad for Jace. I really do. He's been through so much in that family, from being shipped around, from Janelle having all of these like really disgusting, insidious guys in her life, um, from having the police involved in their life a lot, from having CPS involved in their lives a lot. I mean, Jace was never going to turn out normal after all of this. And it's just kind of sad to watch, because it's one of those things where you've been watching these kids since they were babies. And now we're sort of at that point, at that turning point where we're seeing the repercussions of, being a teen mom, not just being a teen mom, obviously, but, you know, of what it was like to be raised by Janelle, by having someone in your life who had mental health issues and drug issues and lots of other kinds of issues, and you weren't raised by her. And then you had your grandmother in your life, and then you had these series of men that were abusive to your mother in your life, right? So of course he was going to go through so much, but it's just it's sad, and it's odd that we're now at that point in time where we're actually seeing that play out, because now he is 16, right? Now he's the age that she was when all of this stuff started happening to her. So it's just really sad, and I wish the best for Jace. Okay. Farrah Abraham, another one of our favorite teen moms. She is Teen Mom OG. She was on the Rogue Energy podcast. So that is Raquel's podcast, as you guys may recall, that has now turned into a myriad of different people taking over the podcast. It went from Raquel to her publicist, and now it's just like a bunch of bonus episodes of like other podcasts and other shows. But I don't know. They had Farrah Abraham taking over the podcast last week, answering some quote unquote fan questions. And we got some just interesting stuff from Farrah, as we always do. So you'll recall Farrah Abraham got pregnant at 16. Her baby daddy ended up dying shortly after she gave birth. They weren't in a relationship at the time, but she does deem him to be like the love of her life. It is Sophia's father. Sophia is her daughter. Farrah is a very contentious, aggressive human being. She got kicked off of Teen Mom for wanting to start an OnlyFans and doing adult entertainment. I don't really know much about that situation, given that there are members of Teen Mom now who are involved in different sorts of OnlyFans types of activity. So I don't really know, but I'm sure it also had to do with a lot with Farrah's attitude and how difficult she was to work with. But Farrah would never describe herself that way. And that's basically what this podcast episode was. It's just Farrah just beefing up how great Farrah is. So she says that she didn't know what fame was until she was 5 years old. Can you believe? Not until she was 5 did she not know what fame was? My gosh, I can't believe she lived until 5 not knowing what fame was. But it wasn't until 5, because she got into a car accident when she was 5, and it was a really horrific car accident, and it was like in the news and everything. And when she came back to school, everyone knew her as the girl who was in this really famous car accident. And that was her first taste of fame, where people knew things about her and had known what had happened to her. I think that's interesting, because when you're 5, you're in grade 1. So I find it odd that all of these kids at school who are in grade 1 and 5 years old know about this horrific car crash that she was in. Like, what's going on with the parents where they're letting their kids watch a horrific car crash on the news and then being like, that's your friend. Also, 5-year-olds barely have much of a vocabulary. I highly doubt they're like talking about this car crash that they saw on the news and how famous Farrah is. If other 5-year-olds don't know what fame is, I can't imagine. But anyways, okay. So she says, the show, like Teen Mom, she calls it a narcissistic simulation because she says it's edited and then you have producers and then you have talent and then it funnels down through a network and other people to the final product. She says this a lot throughout the episode, this concept of a narcissistic simulation. So I understand what she's saying in terms of the simulation part, because yes, you do have all of these people involved who are funneling the content down and down and down until it is a certain narrative or it's a certain um, piece of information that may be a little bit different than it was before. That's what editing is. But to call it a narcissistic simulation, I'm not quite sure what she means there. I think what she's trying to say is that editors and producers and networks want things to look a certain way. And because of that, that makes what they create at the end of it narcissism. I don't really know, but here's the main point when it comes to Farrah. Farrah is a narcissist, but Farrah is a narcissist almost in the way in which we used to deem narcissism before we really knew what it meant. Before Scandival, we didn't even really know what it was. But like before then, I thought a narcissist was someone who was really full of themselves, which is part of it, not most of it, but part of it. And that is a lot of what Farrah is. Farrah Abraham takes no accountability. She thinks she is the greatest person that's ever existed. She thinks she has never done anything wrong. She acts like she's a model for female empowerment, but is like constantly tearing down other women. Like, for example, I posted something about her a little while back, like just about her doing comedy now. So she's now a comedian and she says that, she's really, really great at it. And it's one of like her best assets. It's where she can be her full self. And I totally get that as someone who has done comedy. I get where you can really have your own voice. But, she really talks about it in the sense of like how it's changed people's lives because she's just so great at it. And it's like, Farrah, you don't have a Netflix comedy special. You just got into it. Um, like I said, I had made a comment about her comedy, and it wasn't even that negative. I was just like, everyone should try their hand at it. And when people told me I was, or didn't want to tell me I was bad at it, they would say things like, you did it. Look at you. You did it. You got up there and you did it. And then I guess somebody sent that to her. And then she starts writing all over my page, like, you're a hating arse bitch, blah, 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 blah. And then other people were commenting back to her saying, like, you act like you are like this modicum of female empowerment when you're tearing down this podcaster who hasn't really said anything bad about you. And that's just such a point about Farrah. What else does she talk about? She says that she didn't have any issues with any of the other cast members because they're not in her life, and so there's no follow with them. Farrah. There was literally a TMZ article that came out last week about Farrah and Janelle settling their decades-long feud. So what the fuck are you talking about? And didn't she just call Caitlin Lowell online like not a brother fucker, but basically she's like, you married your brother and he plays for the other side. So again, no insight, no accountability. It's just wild to say, I have no issues with any of the other cast, but like has had several issues with several members of the cast via Twitter for like literally years. Then she says that anyone on the show that is friends with each other is only a trauma bond. Now, of course, these women do all have this thing in common, right? They were all teen moms. And they were all on this show at the same time. So there's definitely is that bond there. But I don't think it's necessarily only a trauma bond. I mean, they do have these genuine things in common, right? Like they were teen moms together. It was at the same time. They came up together on TV, on reality TV, when reality TV wasn't really a thing. So while there may be some trauma involved, I do believe that these friendships can be very real. I don't see why they couldn't. These are women who have been through some very genuine, very relatable things to each other, almost to in the sense of only they know what each other has been through, not just the teen mom of it all. There's lots of teen moms, but the fact that they're on this show, especially when the show was first picked up, it wasn't really popular. It was a documentary. They didn't know how big it was going to be. And so to go through reality TV and social media, I mean, social media wasn't even a thing when the show started. So to go through all those different sort of changes in life together, I think can be a very real thing. She says that she had to make her daughter's boyfriend sign an NDA and a cease and desist at 13. That's very Farrah Abraham, very Lala Kent, and I she also says she's not a regular teen mom, and she said that several times, and I had to laugh every time because it's like I'm not a regular teen mom, I'm a cool teen mom, I guess. She says she keeps meeting guys with mommy issues, and she's not about that anymore. Not really sure what that means. But she does say that she has a PhD in dating and that she learns things about dating. And then she goes and gives that advice to her single girlfriend so that they could learn about dating. And that people are very fascinated with her dating life, even family, because she's just so good at it. Okay, Farrah, when was the last time you were in a relationship? Like, I really don't remember. There was this one guy she dated on the show for a while. I don't remember his name, but he was very, very obviously there for the clout. Um, I can't imagine her having genuine relationships with anybody because she is so aggressive and so contentious and has absolutely no insight into that. So, what are these men with mommy issues? I just really don't know. What else does she say? So she's going to be on the Netflix show Pop the Balloon, which I've heard about. It is a dating show. There's going to be some people from The Ultimatum on it. I might watch it. It sounds sort of interesting. But the last funny thing that she said was the reason that she thought she could do comedy was because of the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, because she said if a fictional character could do it, then so could she. Sure, Farrah, that makes complete sense. So that's what's going on in the life of Farrah Abraham. Let's move on to Summer House. So Jesse Solomon was on Tinks's podcast. I think it's called It's Me, Tinks. Now, I don't really know who Tinks is. I mean, I've seen her obviously in the zeitgeist for the past several years. I think she sort of talks on like she has a podcast and I think she just sort of talks about like dating and relationships and that's what she's known for. I did notice that when she was on Watch What Happens Live a couple weeks back with Lexi, she was sort of cold towards Lexi. And we do also know that she has reached out to Jesse Solomon in the DMs and was shot down. So maybe that's why there was a little beef, but also she's apparently really close with like Sierra, Paige, Amanda. She talked during this entire podcast episode basically about how much she loves them. So keep that in mind. There's some bias there in terms of how she feels about Jesse Solomon. And how she feels about Lexi. I was just surprised that Jesse Solomon was willing to do any more podcasts because we all heard that he basically shut down the Vile Files. But it doesn't seem like Tinks asked him a lot of questions about Lexi, and he seemed extremely physically uncomfortable to the point where Tinks actually said something. She's like, "You look so uncomfortable." And I think he's so overdoing these podcasts and so over talking about Lexi, but sir, you didn't have to do this podcast. I am curious why he did this. But anyways, so he says that Lexi is making stuff up that he did off camera. I don't think that's true. Here's why I don't think that's true. He never said that. All the things that she said that he did off camera, she said on camera, and he didn't deny any of those things. So to say that now, almost a year later, I don't believe you. I think he's now, after seeing the audience reaction over the past few months and everybody calling him a fuckboy and a love bomber and all these things, he's trying to pull something that he thinks can't really be refuted. Like, oh, the things she said that you guys didn't see, that didn't happen. She's lying. Well, we can't prove that. So I think he's really just trying to amp up any animosity or any hatred towards Lexi now that the season is dialing down. Now that everyone is sort of Team Lexi, he's like, okay, well, all I can sort of do is try to turn this around at the very last moment. He said people are starting to figure it out. I don't think so. I don't agree. He said he's sorry for being overly flirtatious with Sierra, but she's one of his best girlfriends. I I don't think those two things are together, right? Like if someone is one of my best friends, it doesn't mean that I'm overly flirtatious with them and I touch them, right? Those two things don't necessarily go together. If you are just one of those people who is an overly touchy person, that's a different thing. But I don't think he's ever claimed to be an overly touchy person with everyone that's in his life, because again, that would be a different thing. But the fact that he's equating being best friends with someone to being overly flirtatious, meaning like, well, of course, I mean, we're best friends, so of course we're flirtatious. Those two things don't go together. And it's disrespectful when you have a girlfriend to be flirtatious with other women. It just is. He says he's not a liar and a master manipulator. I mean, I disagree. He laughs about wanting to see Lexi back next season. And this worries me. I mean, like, obviously, I know he doesn't want her back, but like, I am worried because if he's trying to turn the narrative against her, and it really does seem like most of the girls on the cast are Team Jessie, I struggle with the idea of her coming back, not because I don't want her back, but if she doesn't have any allies in the house, then who does she come back to hang out with? Because again, remember, this show is about a group of friends hanging out together. So I don't know. It just makes me sad for her because I thought she was such a great fit. And this relationship situation really seemed to turn on her. He thinks that she's projecting all of the things that she's accusing him of doing that she was doing. What the fuck are you talking about? She was sucking toes? No. She was flirting with people? No. She was lying all over people and flirting with them and like touching their bodies? No. She was getting a manicure at 9 p.m.? No. So what the fuck are you talking about? What is she projecting? It's insane. It's insane. His excuse for what he said to Sierra was that he was drunk and that the next day when he was lying on her, it was a joke. Yeah, I mean, Jessie, these are your excuses. These are the same excuses you've always had. Everything is a joke. Everything is being drunk. Everything is silliness. And the problem is that you can't take anything seriously, and that's why people are mad at you. He said that we are getting an accurate portrayal of him rule in the way he was presenting himself because he was the one who was spending most of his time in the house banging chicks. And maybe that's so, right? I mean, we look at this and we're like, it really seems like they are cutting out this person of color. Literally, we saw him literally being cut out of scenes, and it's like, why is this happening? If that was the only rule that he was portraying, I guess that's not an edit, and there's only so much that can be done. But I still don't understand why he's being cut out, because even if all he's talking about is sex, why is that so uninteresting that he's literally being cut out of scenes? Like that just doesn't make sense to me. Jessie said that Lexi would accuse him of doing things only for the cameras, and that wasn't true. It is true, Jessie. It is true. I mean, it's very obvious that you're very much enjoying being famous. And yeah, I do think you do things only for the cameras. And lastly, he said that he's an investor in Soft Bar, which I guess it's really nice of him. And I guess that makes him kind of a good friend. But oh man, Soft Bar, it just 10,000 a month, all the money Carla's sinking into that. I hope it succeeds. I really, really do. But I don't have high hopes, you guys. I really don't. Okay, so let's move on to the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And if you haven't watched the season yet, maybe skip this section and come back. Go back and listen to my episode of season 2 of the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, where I cover the entire season. And now we're just going to get into some of the news of it all because, like I said, there has been lots of podcasts that the cast has done. There's probably going to be more podcasts this week and more news as, the days and weeks go on because the girls love to get into it online. We know this. Okay. So Brett and Demi were on the Vile Files last week, and you'll recall that one of the major plot points that sort of ties a Vanderpump Villa and what's the name of the other show? Secret Lives of Mormon Wives together is the Marciano and Demi of it all. So there was this episode of Vanderpump Villa where the MomTok girls go to Vanderpump Villa. Demi and Marciano end up speaking and talking for a while and, kind of venting to each other. He leans in to kiss her on the cheek. She pulls away, and that's what we see happen online. Then Demi comes out after the fact with several stories explaining that she was sexually assaulted, that Marciano is a sexual predator, that she might be taking legal action, and how none of the girls were very supportive of her about it. And then a lot of the girls from MomTok were coming out online being like, yeah, but you talked to him after, sexual predator. What are you talking about? Blah, 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 blah. So it was just like, I'm sorry, are these girls like not supporting their friend slash a woman? Because that seems really strange. So what we do see play out in the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives season 2 is that Demi is a bitch. She basically tries to take over MomTok. She wants to be the queen bee. And we see a whole different Demi who is very drunk with power and fame. And it's really just hard to sort of take her side. And that seems to be what's happening here. Now, remember, these two things can be separate and should be separate. Demi is coming off as, not great this season. I'll say that for sure. But if a woman claims that she has been sexually assaulted, we believe her. Point blank. It is what it is, okay? She may be a liar about other things, but women typically do not lie about these kinds of things, and it is important that we believe them because of it. And just because a woman lies about one thing doesn't make her a liar about all things. Same with Raquel, for example. She was a liar about Scandival, but it didn't mean she was a liar about James kicking her dog 4 times, for example, okay? So do I believe Demi? Absolutely. What I don't know is the extent of it, and it doesn't really matter because on the Vile file she says that Marciano groped her, and if that's how she termed it, that's how she termed it. Do I believe that what happened to her was really upsetting and she deems it to be groping and she deems it to be sexual assault? Yes, because if that's how she felt, that's how she felt. We didn't see much more than what was on camera. I don't know if there is any more. It doesn't matter. If she feels sexually assaulted, then she was sexually assaulted, point blank. But Demi and Brett go on the Vile Files. She talks about how she was groped by him, and she says that she told the girls, like the other MomTok girls, but she told them not to tell anyone. And Jessie immediately told Sheena, because of course Sheena is involved in all of this. Um, and that's sort of what we saw kind of play out later on, where the girls sort of seem to turn on Demi and kind of even consider believing Marciano. And I do find that all extremely confusing because you see Marciano online saying, like, making TikToks being like a 30-year-old Mormon wife scared because her husband's going to find out what really happened. So I was disinvited to the Hulu event. But I mean, if he was disinvited to the Hulu event, like the premiere event, he must have done something. But then he's out online, he's like talking shit, he's living his best life. He doesn't seem scared about anything, and that's why I seem really confused about this. Um, and then something else that Demi mentioned on the Vile Files is that she thinks that Jessie cares more about fame than friendship, and that Jen is fake and turns it on for the cameras, and that her husband is a really nice guy. So again, watching the season, you see that Demi and Jen are not in a good place. Jessie and Demi are not in a good place, so that's probably where this is coming from. This I don't know how I feel about. I feel like Jessie is pretty genuine and pretty, I mean, even the way that she confronts situations on the show, I feel like she does it in a very mature way. And I really just don't see her as the type that's more concerned about fame. But I mean, all of these girls are to an extent. And then the Jen of it all, I mean, yeah, we definitely saw some fakeness from Jen, but when Jen's mental health was put at risk, I just I just don't believe that that's fake. The same with sexual assault. People don't lie about their mental health to that extent, to the point where she's willing to not even be filmed for several episodes. I think that that's not fake. And I feel like Demi also has to sort of separate those things as well, that somebody may be fake about some things, but not about other things. And then on Behind the Velvet Rope, Hannah was on that with, what was that other guy's name? Hayden? She was with one of the other guys from Vanderpump Villa. So Hannah and Marciano are sort of like the main characters from Vanderpump Villa. Hannah and Marciano used to date. I think he cheated on her a bit and they were on and off for a bit. But yeah, they're sort of the Stassi and Jack's characters of Vanderpump Villa. So Hannah was on there and she said that Marciano isn't a clout chaser and that he and Demi texted after Villa and that on Villa they actually were talking for hours and that all we saw was just sort of like a little clip. Again, this concept of them texting after doesn't really mean anything to me. It's something that some of the other MomTok girls were trying to come out with after too, as like an excuse, being like, "Oh, you think he's a sexual predator? Well, how come you were texting with him after?" Again, that's just like so victim blamey. It's like saying like, "Well, how come you didn't break up with him after he raped you?" Not everyone does. It's not that simple. Sorry, I'm not saying that he did that. That was an example that I'm giving. But what I'm saying is she could have texted him because she was worried about because these two shows are so tightly wound together that maybe she was worried about there being some contention and there being some issues between the two shows. Maybe she was worried that the other girls would be mad at her if she didn't try to make nice with him. She also did mention something about texting him in the episodes, and I don't know if these are the same texts, but she like there was this rumor that Jessie had made out with Marciano at Tom Tom in LA. And then Demi, sorry, said that she texted Jessie and Marciano was like, "Ooh, when were you two going to tell me about this?" So maybe that was the text, right? Like, just because somebody assaults you and you continue to engage with them doesn't mean that they didn't assault you. There are so many things that go into that mentally. It's such a confusing time for a person who has been assaulted, and it's not as simple as necessarily just cutting communication with the person who did it to you. It's just not always that simple, and it's just very victim blamey to say that. Then Layla was on Morgan's Pop Talks and she talked about her and Cameron, and they're no longer together. So we saw in this season of Vanderpump Villa, or sorry, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, that Layla has this boyfriend. She says that she's so happy. He really loves her. He really gets her. And I was so happy for her because I love when people describe love that way, where somebody just loves them with their whole heart, who they really are, every aspect of their being. And I'm like, oh my God, that is so lucky to find someone who just really loves you for you and lets you be you. But nope, this guy apparently was pretty much in it for the clout. So I feel bad for Layla in that regard. And any of these women who end up trying to date in this world, or any reality star, any famous person, any in any regard, because you really never know if the people who are coming into your life to date you are dating you because of you or because of what you can give them. And that must just be such a stressful, thing to experience, because it could take you a really long time to figure out if somebody is into you for real or not, or you may never really know that about that person. And I just think that's really sad. That means you can never really go into dating with like honesty and trust and anything, because you would always have your backup. So I don't know. I hate that. She also says that she feels like Whitney was there transactionally and sort of came and went. I mean, honestly, I didn't really notice Whitney much this season because, like I said, she was pregnant and she stayed out of the drama. So, but I do understand what Layla's saying. It's like, if you're going to be here, do the work and don't sort of come in and out. And then she said that Demi was very overly friendly with Marciano at Villa. Now, I'm kind of annoyed with Layla for having comments about this back and forth, because even what Layla has said has changed so many times. Because at the beginning of season 2 of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, Layla says, I know for a fact nothing happened with Marciano and Demi. And then later on, she's like, oh, well, I don't know who to believe now because Demi is being so weird. So I'm going to fly Marciano all the way here to Utah to tell his side of the story. And even when he did, he didn't say anything happened. He said he definitely tried and he definitely had a crush on her, but he didn't say anything actually happened. And so even for her to say now, like, oh, she was being overly flirtatious, I mean, it's it's not really anything to us, but in the Mormon culture, that is something. And I think it's a dangerous, mean thing to try to get in between somebody's relationship. So, one last thing I want to say about Demi, and I guess the rest of the women and Layla and everyone else just really sort of trying to perpetuate this narrative online that Demi is a liar. I really don't like it, because despite how Demi has been this season, and yes, she's been a bitch, that doesn't mean that her claims aren't real and aren't true. And I don't, if the women are only trying to perpetuate this narrative online that Demi is a liar just because they don't like her, I just think that's really disgusting, because as women, we don't want to tear down other women who are coming forward to tell their truth, because it is so difficult for women to do that to begin with, that when other women try to sort of tear that down, especially women who have giant platforms, I think that's an extremely dangerous thing to do. So I really hope that these women are not doing this just because they don't like Demi. I just think that's really disgusting. Okay, let's move on to Vanderpump Rules. So on Shenanigans this week, Sheena talked about not inviting Jeremy Maddox to her birthday party because he was talking shit about Janet online. And she said that that was really hard for her because he's like a little brother to her. But I did actually see this, and I think she might actually be talking about the comment that he made on one of my posts. So I had posted a clip of, I think it was Kristen on a podcast talking shit about Janet. And then Jeremy Maddox was started commenting all over it, being like, she's fake as fuck. She's always been fake, fakety ass. And I was like, whoa, what? What is this? So I posted it. And then I got all this feedback that apparently he's this huge clout chaser. And he tried to get a job at Jax's bar in order to try to get on the show. I had no idea. Like, we've seen this guy do some kind of amazing things over the years. Like, remember several seasons back where he saved Sir from burning down. But then again, we also saw him being extremely creepy to Stassi and her friend Rachel at Katie's wedding. And they felt very, very uncomfortable by him. And everybody really downplayed it. But, again, when women say they feel uncomfortable by a man, we believe them. So he's always been like a couple of different things to me. He's been a little bit creepy, but then he's also sort of been a savior. But then to hear this, I was just really shocked. And, we know that Ariana and him don't have a great relationship as of, I don't know, like at least a year ago. Remember, like a year ago, he was arrested for like trying to transport like a ton of weed. Like, I think this guy is just sort of off his rocker. And it's just unfortunate to hear that he's such a clout chaser. I think that sort of tracks if you think about it, because Sheena isn't really great at having the best people in her life. So it sort of makes sense that she really befriended someone who is such a fucking clout chaser. So Sheena also talked about the fact that Lisa Vanderpump has been doing a lot of media lately for Vanderpump Villa. And because there was, some chatter out there that Sheena was writing a book and that she might be talking some tea about Lisa, Lisa has been asked about that quite a bit. So Sheena was asked about it. And Sheena explains, it's a memoir, so it's not about spilling the tea, but it's definitely about her life. Lisa was a part of her life for many years. And so she's finally comfortable sharing things that she didn't necessarily feel comfortable sharing before. But one of those things is that her relationship with Lisa was actually strained for a while because when she had a miscarriage in 2020, Lisa didn't reach out to her. And apparently, Pandora obviously knew about it because Pandora and Sheena are friends. And then Pandora ended up telling Lisa. And Lisa was like, oh, well, I didn't know about it. But Sheena makes a good point that she's like, isn't it her job to know? And I don't really believe the concept that Lisa doesn't know things. Like, Lisa has always made it super well known that she has eyes and ears everywhere. So I feel like she always knows what's going on. So I think this whole like deer in the headlights thing that she does when it comes to her cast and being asked about them, I think is just her way of like trying to pretend to stay out of things. But like, remember, she didn't get Jackson Brittany a gift when they gave birth to Cruz until she was called out on it. Like, even Adam, Up and Adam, so he's from the podcast Up and Adam. You'll know him as quote unquote the podcaster from The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City that kept being referred to. Adam used to work at all of these restaurants. He used to work at Tom Tom, and he has even said that like Lisa does not associate with these people outside of filming. So it is interesting that, she expects these people to owe her for the rest of their lives when it doesn't really seem like she had relationships with them outside of filming. Now, of course, that doesn't include Tom Schwartz, who follows her around like a little puppy dog. He was just with her all weekend at a Vanderpump Dogs event, and he has a great relationship with her. But for the rest of them, I think that her relationship with them was very transactional. I don't think she loved them or cared about them. And so when they were going through things that were happening off camera, she had no interest in it, right? Sheena had her miscarriage in between seasons. Jax and Brittany were no longer on the show and they had their baby. And so she just had no interest in associating with them. And that just shows she's a very transactional person who doesn't really care about the people that are in her lives. So if they end up wanting to quote unquote bite the hand that fed them, they should go ahead and do it. Also, Sheena made another really good point that Lisa didn't give her this opportunity. Bravo did. Okay. Bravo is the network, and Bravo gave her the opportunity because Lisa may have come up with the idea, but the idea was about a group of friends who were already messy, who were already dating each other, who were already sleeping with each other, who were already cheating on each other, who were already doing all these things. People were not tuning in to see Lisa Vanderpump. People were tuning in to see this group of people. So while she may have noticed the group of people and said, like, hey, look over there, I think I have this great idea, the idea itself was already formed because these people already existed. And then the network picked it up and the network made the decision to give this show a platform, right? No, like Sheena said, no one is tuning in to watch Lisa. And really, Lisa is really only being given a position on the show because the show was at her restaurant and because she brought them the idea. She doesn't really have a job outside of, being a producer on this show and being sort of a pretend mom to these people, because that could have been anyone. We just wanted to watch this group of people fight with each other and fuck each other and fuck each other over, right? So I am still going to read Sheena's book. I am looking forward to it. And despite the fact that I've been mad at Sheena for the past several weeks about, some James Vander stuff, some James Kennedy stuff. I was going to say James Vanderbeek, some James Kennedy stuff. I still feel like Sheena holds a lot of Vander secrets that I'm very curious to hear about. Okay, let's move on to our last topic, which is Roni. And you guys may have heard that Sonja Morgan is sort of just losing it, and I'm really worried about her. So we heard the other day that she left a restaurant in an ambulance. TMZ and Page Six reported that she was transported from Echo Palm Beach restaurant in Florida to a hospital on the evening of May 15th. TMZ obtained exclusive footage showing Sonja Morgan visibly upset and speaking loudly to responding officers outside the establishment. Sources indicate that she talked with Palm Beach police officers and restaurant staff for approximately 15 minutes before being placed on a stretcher and loaded into an ambulance. Interestingly, Morgan reportedly called the ambulance for a friend who had fallen, but she ended up receiving medical attention herself. The Palm Beach Police Department confirmed that officers responded to a medical call around 9:45 p.m. and remained on site for less than an hour. Um, there's other reports saying that she was hysterical before leaving the restaurant in the ambulance, telling the cops that she was being set up. as they gave her a trespassing warning, and she was heard telling the police, "It's another setup. This is another setup." Now, 3 days before, so like on May the 12th, there was an article that came out that said hysterical Sonja Morgan blacklisted from NYC Italian hotspot after refusing to pay $1,000 bill she thought was comped. It says ex-Real Housewives of New York City star Sonja Morgan caused quite the scene at NoHo hotspot Tucci on Saturday after the restaurant refused to comp her bill, we hear. She called owner Max Tucci after being handed a $1,000 check demanding a comp because, among other things, she's a single mother. Your daughter's like 25. She was absolutely hysterical and refused to pay. It was like she was filming a Housewives episode shouting, "I'm a celebrity." Oh God, Jennifer Aiden. By Monday, Morgan had paid the bill, money by Monday, including a tip, but we're told she's no longer welcome at the spot. We're told that she has indeed been given free meals by the restaurant in the past, and she has mistakenly assumed that that would be the case on this occasion. Morgan, 61, began on dicey ground, booking a table for 3, but arriving amidst a busy weekend night with a party of 5. We're told the group stopped by for dinner and to pregame before hitting up her cousin Jack Morgan's 30th birthday celebration at Boom Boom. So I don't know. This makes me really worried for Sonja. I mean, we look at things like this and oh God, I hate to ever like make light or have levity in these things, but like I remember telling my sister like a year ago, like, "Oh, Sonja Morgan's coming to Toronto. We should go see her." And she's like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "She's sort of this basket case who gets drunk all the time, and like her dress will probably fall off because that's happened before. And we should go. We should go because it'll be funny because she'll get so drunk, it'll be so chaotic. Her clothes will probably fall off." And I hate admitting that I thought that that would be like entertaining. It is entertaining. But regardless, the point that we're at now is at a point where obviously Sonja is not okay. She's not okay. This is giving like 2007 Britney Spears. And I don't know what's going on with her. I don't know if it's an alcohol problem. I don't know if it's a mental health issue, but somebody needs to help her. If we were watching this on TV, yeah, we'd probably be laughing away, but this isn't on TV. This isn't funny anymore. This shows that she's very, very unwell, that she's not doing okay, and that she needs help. And it's interesting that another one of her friends that's who she called the ambulance for and needed medical attention. So I think also the people that she might be surrounding herself with are enablers who are also people who are drinking and who are getting in these sort of chaotic situations at restaurants, because you're just going to end up becoming like the people you surround yourself with. And I feel like, this just feels very Kim Richards. It feels very like, we're getting to a very dangerous point where something bad is about to happen. And I just really hope that someone intervenes quickly, because I just really don't want to get a news article in a couple weeks that, something worse has happened. I'm just really worried for her. I hope she has the correct people in her life. I hope her daughter, has reached out and has made sure that she's safe, because it just doesn't really feel like she's physically, emotionally, or mentally safe right now. And I feel like she needs to have people in her life and the right supports to make sure that she's safe, because otherwise this just feels like a really bad accident waiting to happen. All right, guys, that is the end of the episode today. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave me a 5-star review. If you didn't like the episode, keep it to yourself. Love you, BB. See you next time. Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator Podcast in partnership with Hurrdat Media. You can watch full-length videos on Hurrdat Entertainment's YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Bravo Investigator. If you enjoy the show, please leave me a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.
A Hurrdat Media Production.